one. No one's going to save you. Two, there is no prince or king in the shining armor waiting to rescue you. The name for my podcast came out during a time when I just said, enough is enough. I'm tired of having to play a role that I did not sign up for. And so I literally asked myself, what are you going to do? Imagine you're dead. And now you have a second chance at life. What are you going to do different? What do you want to do? But I felt seen. I didn't even know I needed to be seen. Listen to it, because something like that could magically happen to you too. And you don't need to hit depression like I did. All I'm saying is listen to your intuition. I want to show people that anything is possible if you truly set your mind to it. This is Rise Plus Rebel, a podcast for people who refuse to abandon themselves to fit this world. Here, we talk about solitude, authentic truth, power, money, creativity, and the quiet action that changes everything. This season is about reclaiming what was never meant to be outsourced. Your voice, your intuition, your timing, your authority. I'm Aya Hodja, commercial real estate advisor and the founder of Rise Plus Rebel, and your host. If you're navigating the journey of life, especially when it feels lonely, uncomfortable, or misunderstood, well then, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Welcome to Rise Plus Rebel. My name is Aya Hodjadwa, and I'm your host. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different and yet very similar. But I don't even know what that means, because I think every moment that we are in that moment, in that present moment, it's never truly the same. They're all different. Every moment is different. And that's what makes it powerful. And so in this episode, I really want to share my journey. I want to share my journey of where I was a couple of years ago, what happened that really led me to where I am now, to where I am actually able to share my story on screen through a podcast, which, if you were to ask me even 5, 6, 10 years ago, 20, let's not even mention that, if I was going to have a podcast, if I was going to write a book, I would have laughed. I would have not believed you. And that's what this episode is all about, is really listening to your intuition, listening to your inner calling. I'm a big believer in that what calls you, the idea, the desire, that dream, if it's lurking in your presence or behind you in your thoughts, it's there meant specifically for you. Not for me, not for your family, but for you. And I really invite you, I would really invite for you to sit with that desire, sit with that thought, with that idea, with that need. Listen to it, entertain it, perhaps even visualize it. Give yourself the grace to truly step into that idea that is in you. Because I'm a big believer in that everything that you've created up until this point, myself included, all started with an idea in the first place. So this episode is really about taking the stage. Take the Stage was a course that I created 5 years ago for actors and models and creatives who were embarking on their own acting creative journey. And at the time, what was happening in my life was very interesting, because I was just on the verge of really questioning my purpose in life. I was going through a lot of difficult hardships. My relationship with my now ex-husband was on the rocks. My relationship at work was also on the rocks, because that impacted. It all has a ripple effect. If you're unhappy in one, you'll be unhappy in the other aspect of your life as well. And so I remember really hitting rock bottom mentally. I hit depression. And that was my very first time where I truly felt so low in my life, because it felt like nothing was working out for me. What I didn't realize at the time was that I was also going through my own version of ego death. It was all very new to me. And so I remember feeling hopeless, because I've never knew what the feeling of depression truly felt like. And for those who don't know what that feels like, God bless you. And you are a very fortunate person to have never experienced that. For those that don't know, I'll just give you a simple version of what depression feels like. It's waking up in the morning and not feeling like getting out of bed at all. You're feeling sleepy all day, every day, and all you want to do is just lay in bed. And I'm a very motivated, self-inspiring type of person. And so for me to have felt that, it was very foreign. I didn't know what that was. And I can't even recall how I was even introduced to the word depression. I've heard of it at the time, but I've never actually experienced it personally. And so for me to have experienced it and then to have witnessed it within myself and then to then challenge myself because I'm very resilient and I tend to just, it's perhaps it's in my nature. I don't know. I have to overcome things. It's part of my DNA. And maybe it's my DNA in this lifetime. And I remember when I fully recognized that I was depressed, which took me about a year to really catch up on that because it just felt so weird for me to have ever experienced something like that. And I didn't know how to get myself out. I've looked for therapists and nothing worked. What was very interesting is that during that time is when I also started to hear myself more, listen to myself more. And I remember feeling like, okay, come on, Aya, you're resilient. Why are you feeling this way? And I remember asking myself, literally having this inner dialogue with myself, saying, what will make you happy right now? Imagine you died because at that point, and that's what depression is, right? Like it really gets you to start thinking about suicide. It really gets you to think about pulling the plug and going. Because if, especially if you are not managing yourself, I highly encourage you to look into how to, heal yourself because it can get dark really, really fast. So lean in on your community if you do actually have experience with depression or you have experienced it or maybe you're in that boat. I highly encourage you to truly follow and get involved with the community, follow your own intuition in that you go and seek some guidance, some consulting, some therapy. For me, being that I was too stubborn and therapy did not work for me, I ended up having to have a talk with myself. And so I literally asked myself, what are you going to do? Imagine you pull the plug. Imagine you're dead. And now you have a second chance at life. What are you going to do different? What do you want to do? And it was such a personal, deep question. It almost felt like there was a divine guidance in my space at that moment. And I'm getting a little bit teary eyed now thinking about it because it is a very vulnerable experience for me that I don't necessarily share on camera in public like that. So we're close now. And I remember when I asked myself that, what will make me happy? I said acting. It didn't even take me more than a minute to really answer. It was acting. And at the time, mind you, I was overweight. I was over 200 pounds. I may have lost a little bit of weight at that time because I was just not doing so well mentally. And I just remember I was like, I just want to act. I don't know what that looks like, but that's what I want to do. And I remember telling myself, okay, let's do some research on that. Since clearly therapy is not working, you don't want to go. Let's self-heal. And so I looked into acting, local acting schools in my area. And the time I used to live in San Francisco, Bay Area. Within a couple of weeks, I signed up for an acting school. And that was really just for fun, just to get myself out of the funk, get myself out of depression, get myself to actually play, even if it's like 1 hour a week. And that hour per week for the next 2 months after that, when I made the decision to actually attend school, it actually impacted my mental state in a positive way. It gave me some form of hope. So before acting, I was so depressed. My self-esteem was so low. I had been insulted in my corporate job. I was even given an insulting job, like a demotion, not a promotion, a demotion. They're like, hey, you're not doing so good. We can either fire you or give you like an assistant job. And I said, okay, I think this is a flag that I got to do something about my life. So coming from low self-esteem to then joining acting class and then being around creatives, and it was like a foreign environment for me. And yet, as soon as I went and attended those classes, I immediately felt at home. So why acting? Out of all the things, why acting? I've actually surprisingly have acted when I was younger, when I was in Turkmenistan. I did a little bit of acting in my school plays, and I just had such a blast. And I guess your body, your mind really does remember these things when you truly are just doing something out of pure joy, not because you need to, not because you're getting paid for it, not because you're going to get certain views, right? Like you're not getting any form of gratification. You're just doing it because you enjoy it. And at the time, like I mentioned, when I was depressed, that's what really, like, I needed to find something that brought joy to my life. So it was acting. So when I went into the acting school during that time of, when I went to acting school during the difficult time of my life, I genuinely did not believe anything would come out of it. I really just went there for the joy of acting, for the joy of being part of something that didn't require me to produce. At the time, I was also in sales. So all I had to do was sell, sell, sell. My bosses and the leadership, all they did was look at my numbers constantly every week. You know, you're just getting like hover over, like people are hovering over you and saying, "Why aren't you performing? Why aren't you performing?" Not performing as an actor, but more of, "Why aren't you selling?" And that just brought so much pressure into my already heavy, dark life. And so I needed that break, right? And that's what acting did for me. And so what happened in those 2 months, the first 2 months that changed something in me, not only did I feel like I was a part of a community, but I felt seen. I didn't even know I needed to be seen. And what does scene mean in I encourage everybody, whether you like acting or not, I encourage everyone to take an acting class. And I really genuinely want all of you to experience what acting truly is. Because acting is really just being yourself in a specific situation. So if you're getting a scene or a script in the scene and you have to act it out, depending on the kind of scene it is, you're going to use your physical body and you're going to use your mental capacity, right, to act out a scene. You're going to, as a friend of mine says, breathe life into the words of the script. That's one thing that I really genuinely loved because it really got me out of thinking as a business minded individual and more of a creative individual, which I think we genuinely deeply all have that creativity. We all have it. I just don't think a lot of us are exercising that creative self as often and as frequently as we should. And so, what happened in those first 2 months is I learned how to improvise. I learned how to read the room. I learned how to navigate energy. So, if you watched me long enough, and even if in this scene as well, this episode, you may have even seen my energy shift from happy to sad. That's what acting does, is being able to, pardon the word I'm going to use, but it's being able to manipulate energy. You're an energy alchemist, essentially. That's what an actor is. That's what a model is. A good actress and a good model is going to be able to capture the room just with their energy. They don't even need to read the script. And so I learned how to do that through improv, through acting, through obviously criticism, but I wouldn't call it criticism, critique from the acting teacher. And after 2 months of play and really getting ingrained into the school as an actor, my teacher approached me and he said, "Hey, you're pretty ready to go and do this thing as a job." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, you're ready. You can go. Like, you're a great actress." And I was like, "Thank you." Yeah. No, I didn't act like that. But it's kind of weird, right? Like 2 months ago, I'm in this like slums, super depressed, like considering to take my own life. And then 2 months later, I'm getting complimented and saying, "Go act. You're good at it." It definitely was validating and affirming, despite the fact that that was not even the career path that I was even ever planning on taking. And of course, my teacher told me, like, "Hey, get on these casting websites, put your profile out there." And for somebody who had zero experience in the acting world, just 2 months of acting school, I was able to grow my resume from zero experience to a full resume within just another 2 months. How did I do that? I did that because of my background in sales and marketing. I'm equipped with a marketing and sales background. I graduated with a marketing degree from San Francisco State, and I've pretty much spent most of my career before when I was just embarking acting. I spent most of my career in sales and marketing. And so for me, instead of thinking like, what do I sell? Right. I no longer needed to find a product to sell or to advertise. I became the product. And so I had to take myself out and start thinking as an entrepreneur, not as an actress, not as a model, but as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's managing herself, right? I am my own agent. How can I create my own opportunities? And so that's what I did when I first got into the professional realm of acting. And I actually built that resume. And what was even wilder is within 2 months, right? I built my resume from zero to a full resume, full page. I was also able to manage to get 3 appointments with 3 different agencies to represent me. What was even cooler than that is on my second interview with the second agent, I said, "Hey, just so you know, the first agent actually already gave me an offer. They want to represent me." And I remember seeing the agent, the second agent, like super impressed with the fact that somebody like me, zero experience essentially. Like, I mean, think about it. 2 months, not even talking about 2 years of resume work, right? Like 2 months of education and training, 2 months of work experience, somewhat. And now here I am. Hey, represent me to the agent. Of course, it's very compelling. Of course, it's very interesting. Tell me more. And the third agent, I had a very similar approach. Third agency didn't really, they were like, "Oh, all right, well, you have options. So we want to play cool." And so I actually ended up going with the second agent who was impressed with my ability to essentially sell myself. And that's how I got my agent to represent me. That's how I signed with them. And so I say this not to brag. I don't have any desire to brag and say, "Oh, look how awesome I am." That I already know myself. I don't need you to validate me in any shape or form. What I do want to share with you is that message that I said earlier is that when a desire in you is lingering, that idea in you is lingering, and it's asking you to pay attention. It's nagging you, maybe. Maybe it's not even giving you sleep. Listen to it because something like that could magically happen to you too if you truly let it. And you don't need to hit depression like I did. You don't need to have to go through such difficult path to enjoy your bliss, enjoy the fruits of your labor. All I'm saying is listen to your intuition. What I do differently and what I've done differently when I was acting is I was seeing myself as a product to sell. I say this all the time to myself, so I'm going to share this with you too. I don't like selling myself. I don't think anybody really does. And those that do, great for you. For me, I'm not good at it. I don't think I am. I'll sell anything but myself. Reason why is because I'm a big believer in that my work speaks for me. But I'm also I understand, right? I've been in the business for 15 years now, going and going, and I understand that it is important to sell yourself. Otherwise, who else like nobody else is going to do that for you, you know? But at the end of the day, how you present yourself really does matter. And so for me, when I was acting, and when I was building my resume, I was truly thinking about how can I differentiate myself from my competition. And you kind of have to have a competition in the business world, despite the fact that we are in the creative world. But as my good friend, who I'm hoping to have on this podcast in the near future, as my dear friend Skeeter Jones said, you are in show business. You cannot have a show without the business. And so you have to, whatever business you are in, it's a business. And so because we are in the show business, we have to show our business. And so I had to think, how can I show myself and stand out from the crowd? Because there's a lot of actors, just like there's a lot of realtors, just like there's a lot of accountants, just like there's a lot of doctors, just like there's a lot of attorneys, right? Like you have to stand out from the crowd. And so that's what I did differently. I used and leveraged the 15 years of my experience in sales and marketing to build my resume, to, and it was the little things, right? It was me reaching out to them, sending this little extra note of, hey, I care. Hey, I see you. Hey, I know your job is not easy. I'm here as a business partner to help you. That was my approach, which I've noticed a lot of actors and a lot of creatives did not do. And the reason why I've noticed that is because when I would be actually booking those jobs and I would be working with those actors, I would see them just like this, like slouching on their phones, literally acting like they're doing a service to the casting director. Whereas for me, I was really there to learn. I was really there to help. And I ended up actually consulting the producers and the directors for each project that they booked me on. So I was constantly providing value. And that's the reason why me and Skeeter Jones, again, shameless plug here, but hopefully he'll be coming on in the next couple of episodes. That's how he and I connected because I kept following up and he said, hey, I really like that. I like this approach. I like what you're doing. You're doing that, what other actors are not. All I did was just turn on my salesy hat, follow up and follow through. Two simple and yet such powerful statements. So that's when I really realized this is working. That what I'm doing is working. And it wasn't because I was like, oh, I'm going to be strategic, it's a tactic. I'll say this from a professional standpoint, not as a coach, not as an actor, not as a realtor, but just as a professional. When somebody does something from a tactic or strategic point of view or perspective, and just like being strategic, it also reeks. You can sense it. People are not ignorant. Like sometimes maybe they may not be able to put things into words, but they can feel it. And oftentimes they will lean in on the feeling of like, oh, this is not an authentic person. And so I don't want you to think like, whoa, Aya's strategic and she's manipulative. No, absolutely not. Everything that I do is intentional and it comes from a place of the heart and care. If I did not care, I would not reach out, period. That's on period. So for those people who know me, just know it's because I care. Therefore, I reach out. Therefore, I follow up. I may not always follow up at the time that is needed because there's just so much happening all the time in my world. But when I do, it's because I care. And for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, I think you get the point, right? So, I want to share something with you. Acting and modeling found me a couple of months prior to COVID. At the time, things were going so well for me in that career path that I genuinely thought that I was going to move to Hollywood and continue to pursue my career there because it was just going so well. And it wasn't because it was COVID that literally put a pause into the whole world, right? I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that time. It put a pause in my career as well. And a new found desire came to me. And that's actually when I found and was introduced to screenwriting. And as soon as the world went on pause, a lot of things, even for actors and creatives specifically, everything went online. Everything had to be digital or virtual, which was very different. But for somebody who was not even in the industry for more than 6 months yet, this was okay, right? It was very easy for me to adapt. And at that time is when I found screenwriting. And at that time is when I was introduced to publishing. And at that time is when I was introduced to just being an author. And so it was during COVID when I was inspired to write my first book called Getting Lost in the Sauce. At the time, the topic was really about reinventing yourself, which is what was I was doing and going through with acting and then beating depression through acting. And I really to this day say acting saved my life because it did. It really, really did. And I'm a big believer. I'm going to talk about my big beliefs here today. I'm a big believer in that everything happens for a reason. The COVID pandemic, the whole world pausing, all had to happen for a reason too. And we survived. Here we are, no longer wearing masks. Thank you, God. Here we are, can still hug and talk to one another, share space with one another without having to act like a 6 feet rule actually means anything. And so I'm sharing all of this to say, follow your bliss. If you're an actor, if you're a model, if you're a creative, follow that bliss, whether that's wanting to be a film director one day. That's me, by the way. I've always wanted to be a cinematographer. Tell me how I did, by the way. Like, if you're watching my podcast, please tell me. Like, feedback really truly matters to me. reach out to me. I write weekly because I love it. I didn't realize starting a podcast is going to be something that would feed the creative monster in me. Because that's what it is. Like, I have so many desires, so many things I want to put out into the world, so many things I want to share with the world and inspire people. If my work has inspired somebody, I can really truly just die in peace, genuinely. And until then, until the day I die, I continue to push myself to create, to do things out of my passion. I want to leave a dent in this world. I want to inspire people. I want to show people that anything is possible if you truly set your mind to it. That's the reason why I have the podcast. That's the reason why I have my weekly newsletters. And if you're interested in joining my weekly newsletters, just send me a message. I would love for you to get my newsletters. It's called Aya's Inner Circle. So if you want to join Aya's Inner Circle, I would love for you to be part of my circle. And I genuinely share. I share my life, my realizations, my path, my struggles. I don't think none of us are perfect. And for somebody who's a perfectionist, I do my best not to be too perfect because I don't know what that is. I strive for the best. I literally have a sign behind me, which is out of the screen that says the goal is to improve every time. The goal is to just get better every time. And I don't know if that's the perfectionist in me because I don't know what that is, right? Like, I don't know what perfect is. And I do my best not to let my perfectionism stop me from living my best life, from publishing books, from having the audacity to just get on the camera and speak my truth. I don't stop myself from following my bliss. And I invite you to do the same. And so, one of my questions for myself is, why do I keep following different creative paths? And I mentioned this earlier. My creative side is a beast, it's hungry, starving. I think everything has a purpose. Your path, even though you think you know what that path is, and then you realize, oh, shoot, it's actually not the path that you're meant to be in. So you redirect yourself and then you go through a different path. We all have that path. We all have to navigate through this thing called life. And so I keep following different creative paths, these different creative ideas, because I want to. Why not? Who is to say, and who am I to say to myself that this path, the path to just real estate, or the path to just marketing, or the path to just acting, or the path to just writing, that's the only path for me? Who's to say? Why can't I do them all? That's literally how I talk to myself. Why can I not do them all? If they all make me happy, why not? Of course, you have to learn how to prioritize that what pays the bills if that's what is needed, but you also have to prioritize that what makes you happy. And for me, the reason why I keep following different paths is that I'm a big believer in that eventually these paths all come together and they become this beautiful ecosystem in which is what I'm building. So my book, my second book called Take the Stage is out. It's alive. It's been published on April 4th, 2026. And I would genuinely love for you to support me if you can. Read the book. I'll eventually have the audio version of it as well. And I would genuinely want to hear from you. I really, really do. Because I genuinely think us interacting together as a community is what's going to strengthen our bond, not just the bond between you and me, but the bond between the world. Rise plus Rebel, the name for my podcast, came out during a time when I just said, enough is enough. I'm tired of having to play a role that I did not sign up for. And I'm pretty confident you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't, this is a great invitation for you to ask yourself, where are you holding back in your life right now? Where are you holding back the thoughts and opinions because you know that it will create chaos, even though deep inside you wish you could release that. You wish you could just say it out loud, say it and express yourself. That's what Rise Plus Rebel is. Express yourself. Step into your power, express yourself, speak your truth, embody your truth, embody the power that is within you. And if you cannot, at least try to awaken it, try to tap into it, get to know it, get to know that power that's within you. We all have it. So if you are feeling stuck, if you feel like there's something within you that you just wish you could express, I want you to sit with it. I really do. I don't want you to do anything but sit with it. I also invite you to write if you can. Write it on a piece of paper, type it out, talk to yourself on the phone, on an audio, something where you can see yourself and your thoughts in a physical form. I highly encourage you to write it down because then you'll be able to actually disassociate that what you're thinking and you can see what you're thinking on a piece of paper. And I've noticed, and I've done this a few times throughout my journey, is when you disconnect what's on your mind into a piece of paper, you can then start to see one, that what you've been judging yourself on is now in a piece of paper. You can either no longer judge yourself on, or you can start to see, wow, this is what's been bothering me. I need to do something about it. And so if that's the case for you, like, wow, this is what's happening. The next step I like to do, especially when I feel indecisive, is I like to create a pros and cons list, a pro and con. So let's say there was a moment in my life last year, there were a couple of those where I was just having so much turmoil, so much chaos, and at the same time, so much good stuff. So it wasn't all bad. Um, and I remember just like people were pulling on my energy, pulling on me, trying to get me to do things and trying to get me to attend their events and whatnot. And I had to decipher within 5 minutes, what do I want? How do I react? I can feel I'm tired. I can feel I should be resting, but I also need to support this person or support this organization or support this group. And then I had to ask myself, do you? And when you have this inner battle with yourself, best thing to do is create a pro and con list. Pro, if you were to go to this party, how would you feel? How are you currently feeling on the pro side? These are all the benefits you're getting by doing this thing. Here are all the cons. Here are all the bad things or the not so good things. What are you going to do about that? As creating that list and then seeing which items beat who, it's an easy decision for you to decide, oh, do I want to go or do I not want to go? That's just an example. But I hope that it kind of resonates. One of the things that I wish somebody would have told me when I was going through hardships at the earlier stages of my life is no one's gonna wait for you, 1. No one's gonna save you, 2. There is no prince or king in the shining armor waiting to rescue you. Nobody's rescuing you. I mean, they might if you actually, like, seek for help. I'm sure they can help and rescue you. But what's most empowering is when you can rescue yourself. And that's the power that you have. You can change your entire trajectory of your life within a year, within 6 months, if you truly believe that you are a powerful creator, because you are. And so I hope this episode impacted you in some shape or form, in a positive way, obviously. And if it didn't, I really apologize that I put you to sleep. There was a moment where I remember hearing a coach, a business coach that I really admire, who said, create content for the version of you from 5 years ago. And so I wish that I heard these exact words from someone like myself 5 years ago, because I would have done things a little bit more different and not in a bad way. Like, I don't want to say, oh, my life was challenging, but there are a lot of lessons that I learned in just the last 6 months that I could have wished I have learned 5 years ago. Because then my life would have been different 5 years ago, too. Now, so this is all to say, follow your bliss. Don't ignore that voice in your head. Take the stage. Your life is the stage. My book is just the name of it because I named it that. Because that's really what you do every time you put yourself out there. whether that's through social media, whether that's through cold calling, whether that's through reaching out to business owners or opportunities you're creating for yourself as an actor, as a model, as a realtor. You're continuously taking the stage. Take the stage with confidence. Remember who you are. You're a powerful being. We all are, but you are more powerful than every one of us. Just kidding. Sometimes I'm funny, sometimes I'm rude, sometimes I'm sassy, sometimes I'm awesome. And in all the versions, I love all of me. And I hope that you love yourself and all of you and the imperfections and the perfections of who you are. Thank you so much for listening, for tuning in. This was me speaking from my heart, sharing. And I'll share this one last thing for you to take away. A good friend of mine by the name of Carol Reed, who I will also have on my show in the next couple of episodes, so stay tuned, who said, what comes from the heart reaches the heart. That's it. And that's how I've led and how I have approached everything, how I have approached my business, how I have approached this episode, as well as my newsletters, as well as the book, as well as the courses, as well as everything that I touch. Everything comes from a place of the heart. I'm not doing this from anything else but that because I truly believe and I genuinely care about making a positive impact. Because if I've inspired you, that means you're now inspired to take action. You're now inspired to actually live your life, fully, truly step into your power. And then now you can go and spread your light into the world. What a beautiful ripple effect that is. So thank you so much. I appreciate that you're here. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. If something in this episode landed, stayed with you, or stirred something honest inside, please let me know. You can find me at www.risewithaya.com. That's where everything lives, the podcast, my writings, and ways to connect. So I'd love for you to follow me on social media and tell me what you want more of. That can be topics, questions, or conversations you're craving. Rise Plus Rebel isn't just a podcast. It's a community built around truth, presence, and becoming your authentic self. So until then, don't rush your journey. Honor every moment of it.